We need to show you Netflix. Netflix shares are moving higher as well, ahead of the company's quarterly earnings results, which hit the tape after today's closing bell. Shares popping about 3.5% or 349.76. Wall Street analysts expect the streaming service's earnings per share to drop to 2.90 from 3.75 cents a share a year ago. Now revenue is expected to reach $7.93 billion, up from $7.16 billion year over year. Speaking of year over year, Netflix is down 36%. Investors will be hyper-focused on slowing subscription growth after the streaming service announced back in January it expects to add just 2.5 million subs this quarter. For reference, it added 3.98 million subs in the first quarter of 2021. What does this all mean for what's going to happen? In about 23 minutes from now, joining me now to expect on what to expect is Wedbush Securities Managing Director Michael Pachter and Deloitte's Tech Media and Telecom leader Kevin Westcott. Michael, I'll begin with you. You know, once again it feels like the focus will be on subs. Will Netflix hit, miss, or beat the 2.5 million new subs number? What are you expecting? I think of the March quarter's fine. They suspended service in Russia at the very end of March 25th, and they used the word suspend in the press release. So I don't think they're going to eliminate those people as subscribers. But I expect that no new signups in Russia is going to hit them in June, and I think Russia's probably a couple 100,000 a quarter. I mean, it's a city of, country of 55 million households, so even with 2% penetration, that's 1 million a year, and so I think it's a pretty big impact on forward subscription ads. Same thing Ukraine. It's a much smaller country, but they're probably not adding any subscribers there, so I frankly think that they're going to be challenged in the June quarter. They're going to hit the March quarter, and investors tend to kind of ignore the report and look at the future, so let's see what they say. But I say they hit numbers and then they guide down. Okay, so you say they hit, just to be clear, 2.5 million subs for the quarter. They're reporting after the bell, okay? Yes, the question becomes, if you look at this sort of year over year picture, Kevin, it says a lot about all streamers. You guys just did a report. You authored a report on trends, and there were some pretty stunning reveals here. What jumped out at you the most about what you discovered when it comes to the survey that you gave a whole lot of streaming customers? What we actually saw was, well, streaming continues to do well at over 80 penetration. In the US, we're seeing a spike in churn. We've seen customers who are subscribing to a service, watching a series, and then canceling and subscribing to another series. So the average number of subscriptions in a household is held steady for the last 4 years. So we're not seeing people spending significantly more money, but they're actually getting much more aggressive about their subscriptions and canceling subscriptions once they've watched that. It showed that they subscribed for, so that's really driving some challenges in the industry. Well, there's subscription fatigue, and then there's, I can't afford this, right, Kevin? Are you seeing any of that come through? We absolutely are. The number one reason someone cancels a subscription today is that they watch the show they subscribe to. The number two reason is, I can't afford it anymore. And in today's environment with rising inflation, I think that some of these households that have 4 or 5 or 6 subscriptions are really looking at their total spend on entertainment, as we see price increases across a lot of different seconds. Michael, when it comes to spend, what do you expect they will announce as far as the content spend for fresh offerings, and what are you hearing might be the next big thing, sort of the next big Joe Exotic or Queen's Gambit? Something that really gets people excited. They never know, and spending is kind of tailored to cash flow. So when they say they're going to be positive free cash flow, they're basically just taking their operating profit and then spending all of that, less maybe $1 billion. So they're gonna absolutely spend, incrementally $3 or $4 billion more this year than they did last. They're not going to spend as much money as we talked about earlier. Kevin's spot on about content driving churn. And if people have watched the show they want to watch, they're going to leave. So you're seeing Netflix do pretty creative things with content, like splitting up the last season of Stranger Things into 2 increments, one at the end of May and one on July 2nd. So they're trying to keep people as subscribers past that all-important June 30th end of the quarter, so they have lower churn. The June quarter, that's the signal to me that Kevin has spot on that churn, is a serious problem at Netflix, and that's why I think they're probably going to be challenged to deliver us subscribers in June. But yes, they're going to spend a boatload on content. They throw everything at the wall and hope something sticks, and the big secret for them now, as you know, that's out, is let's spend money on Korean content because Squid Game works. So maybe if we do 25 more Korean shows something will work. But they have no idea what's going to be good. Well, what does that mean, Kevin, for the broader picture for streaming, if people are winnowing down all of the choices there are? Are you predicting that we'll see maybe 3 max services that people will be signing up for? What I've been predicting is somewhere around 5 or 6 major platforms we'll see consolidation into those, and those platforms will offer a broad variety of content, you know, the movies and the television that we rely on for today, but they're also bringing in music and games and podcasts and other types of entertainment to make their platforms more sticky. The other thing I expect to see, and we have been seeing over the last year or plus, is the introduction of ad-supported tiers. There's 60% or more of the U.S. population would like to have an ad-supported tier in their subscriptions. So if they're willing to pay full boats to get ad-free day and date content, that's great. But some of them also just want to have access to a broad range of content. And they're willing to watch ads for 6 to 10 minutes an hour. So they can have a lower cost or a free service. I think we're going to see more of those types of tiers being introduced. Well, before we go, Michael, I do really need to get your comment on this today. We got news that Warner Brothers Discovery WBD has suspended all external marketing spend for CNN Plus and laid off CNN's longtime chief financial officer. Do we read into this that they just don't see enough eyeballs for all that's out there now? I mean, how does Warner Brothers Discovery really soar higher in this market? I think CNN Plus is as part of a zero-sum game. If you have cable TV, you have CNN on 24/7, so you don't really need CNN Plus. So it really only appeals to cord cutters, and that actually hurts Warner Brothers Discovery and the rest of its offering. So I think they're just being pragmatic about it, to be honest with you. I think AT&T had no clue what they were doing, so at least you put some adults in charge. The guy might make bad decisions, but at least he comes from a media perspective, as opposed to So I think he's going to get it right over time. He may make bad decisions out of the gate, but he'll get it right. All right, Warner Brothers Discovery up just 1.7, still languishing below 25 a share. Netflix Ohio ahead of the big report.